2014 State of the City Address for Dublin, and I'd like you to welcome Oz Coplin, a longtime Dublin resident who brought the Wreaths Across America program to Dublin in 2013. Oz is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, delivered, indivisible, and justice for all.
Thank you, Oz.
You're welcome.
Everybody's seated. I want you to look at the video screens, and let's take a look back by video for all the great highlights of 2013.
Good evening, and welcome to the 2014 State of the City Address. I'm Mayor Michael Keenan, and I'm very glad to be here with you tonight. Actually, I've lived in the Dublin area since 1978, over 35 years, and a lot has changed. For many of you, Dublin is home, and for many others, Dublin is where you work. In fact, we have 43,000 people that live here in Dublin, and we have another 70,000 that work here. We are also favored by 3,000 companies that call Dublin home, including Cardinal Health, Wendy's, Ashland, and many others. Dublin is also home to a number of world-class events, including the Irish Festival, the Memorial Tournament, and this year we hosted the President's Cup, which provided worldwide recognition for Dublin, and you're going to hear more about that in a little bit. So tonight we celebrate the achievements of 2013, and we look forward to the projects, priorities, and initiatives of 2014. Our success is due to our dedicated and professional staff, and to your current City Council, who is very passionate about their work, and to many past city councils as well. We appreciate the confidence that you have placed in us by putting us in office. Thank you. And now back to my friend and RMC, Jeff Logan. Jeff?
Thank you, Mike. I'm Jeff Logan, and I am thrilled to be here tonight with you. Really nice of the mayor, by the way, gets appointed to the office and heads to Florida on a golf trip. So, smart guy. You know, before we get started, what a terrific video that was, and how proud can all of us be in this room to call Dublin home. Isn't that a terrific recognition? That was sweet. And my wife and I, much like the Keenans, we've lived in Dublin since 1980. We raised our family here. And, you know, frankly, we knew Dublin when there was one high school and there weren't 3,000 roundabouts in this community. I'm a member of the Muirfield Village Golf Club, and this past year I was privileged enough to be able to be the MC for the opening ceremonies for the President's Cup and also serve as the first tee announcer. Before that time, way back when, I was a former football player at Ohio State, a graduate of The Ohio State University. And for those of you that may remember, I played for a pretty darn good football coach by the name of Woody Hayes. And Woody wrote a book called You Win with People. And I learned an awful lot about that since those times of playing for Coach Hayes. And the one thing that I've recognized being in this community is that the leadership that we have here in Dublin is much like the teams that Woody Hayes brought together. We knew when we went on the field against every team, we had better personnel, we worked harder, we were better prepared, and we knew we had a terrific chance of being able to win every battle. And I think that's the way the people of Dublin feel as well with the leadership we have here. And I think you'll learn a little bit about that tonight. Those of you that know where your Twitter is, or know where your tweet might be, or if you got your BlueBerry, your BlackBerry, your iPhone, or whatever you've got, you'll have little reminders, this hashtag Dublin is home. Make sure you put that on everything you can possibly do with respect to social media. We want the world to know. I don't know if we'll catch Ellen with all the retweets, but we do want to make sure everybody understands that Dublin is home. So we're going to celebrate a terrific 2013 and really look ahead to some exciting things that are going on in 2014. I'd like to first introduce some very important people that are with us tonight. Our city manager sitting next to me, Marcia Grigsby. Dublin City Council members with us tonight, Marilee Chinnesy-Zerker, Vice Mayor Rick Gerber, Tim Lecklider, Greg Peterson, John Reiner, and Amy Soleil. Let's have a round of applause for those folks. We're also privileged to have several elected officials that are here with us tonight. U.S. Congressman Pat Tiberi. Pat, where are you? Is he here? He was coming. Also, Carolyn Best is here from Senator Jim Hughes' office. Stephen White from Senator Rob Portman's office is here. Representative Mike Duffy, Representative Stephanie Kunze, and the Dublin School Board members present tonight include our president, Lynn May, Stu Harris, and Rick Weiniger. Let's also recognize the Washington Township trustees in attendance, Gene Bostic and Denise King. And thank you to any other elected officials who are here this evening and are welcome. We're thrilled that you're here with us tonight. Let's welcome all of those people. So I'm up here with the boss. You know, this is like the chairman of the board, the head football coach in many ways. And so everything that went on last year, all this great stuff, all a direct result of your terrific work, right?
I'm afraid I can't take credit for that. We have like you said, you win with people. We have a lot of great staff in a community that is the result of what you see in that video.
So talk to some of these great achievements in 2013.
Well, first of all, before we get started, I would like to, on behalf of the administration and city council members, to thank the Wendy's Company again for allowing us to bring the state of the city from the Thomas Conference Center. Jeff and I were talking beforehand, and I said we're spoiled now, and I don't know where else we'll be able to go except here. So thanks to Wendy's, and also thanks to you, Jeff, for being here tonight. We appreciate your help. And as far as achievements, I would probably identify 3 areas first. The first achievement relates to the securing of our funding for the I-270-33 interchange. It's an interchange that's needed improvement for a long time, and there have been a lot of people involved in working to secure the funding for that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on this evening. Second of all, you saw a lot of projects and things happening in the video. The city continues to invest in infrastructure. We completed 3 roundabouts last year, completed the construction of a water tower on Dublin Road, continued investment in our parks. Finally, I would recognize the President's Cup. That's been mentioned a couple times. And this is one of those unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that the city of Dublin and the Columbus region had the opportunity to host. And I think you probably all have heard earlier this week that the President's Cup and the PGA were, along with the regional partners that have been involved throughout the past year or two, received an XP award from Experience Columbus. So we're very happy and excited to receive that award. And so at this time we have 2 of those regional partners here, and we would like to ask Dan Sullivan, the Executive Director of H&S Sports, and Nicholas LaRocca, the General Manager of Muirfield Village Golf Club. and Vice Mayor Rick Gerber on behalf of Dublin City Council to come on stage for a special presentation.
In honor of our partnership and the great success of the President's Cup, it was led by your organizations. We'd like to present to Muirfield Village Golf Club and the Memorial Tournament a copy of this painting entitled In John Shields' Eyes, painted by Bev Goldie, an artist here in town. The President's Cup was an amazing event. We thank you very much for putting us on the world stage, and I'm sure we're all going to benefit for years to come.
Thank you, Rich.
so much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Just a few quick comments. You know, we started on the journey of trying to get the President's Cup 6 years ago, and we made a lot of promises to the PGA Tour. We said that this community would come out like no other for the event, and we sold out 38,000 people a day. Sold out more than they've ever sold before to a President's Cup. We said that city leadership, not only in Dublin but from around the region, would come in to play and be supportive of the event. And led by Dublin, all of the region came along. Dublin came first and established their commitment through City Council, and thank you, Council and Marcia, for all that you guys did in creating that commitment. The police and the community side, everything came together. And that led us to the support of Columbus and Franklin County and Delaware County and the state of Ohio. So without Dublin, that would not have happened. And in the end of the day, we created an event that the PGA Tour feels like they'll replicate now for years to come, because we did a lot of things here in the community and on the golf course that they had never done before. And we couldn't have done it without Dublin's support. So thank you very much. And I will tell you, we're only 80 days away from the Memorial Tournament. So don't forget about that one. It's our 39th year. So we're going to keep that one going for years to come. And I want to make sure Nicholas has a few words on behalf of the club.
Thanks, Dan. On behalf of the club, to imagine what we've done in 40 years is remarkable. But to think that we had this weather, we have this winter last year, we definitely are lucky in Dublin to have this weather we had. Just a shout out to Jan Rosansky, Jeff Tyler, and Ray Harpham from Building Standards. Without their help and professionalism, we'd still be under construction today. So thank you all for your partnership. It's been great.
And we're gonna end by walking off stage with a message that was delivered or is being delivered by David Pillsbury. So if you turn your attention to the screens, David Pillsbury is with the PGA Tour and wants to offer a few thanks as well. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Greetings from the PGA Tour here in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. We can't thank the City Council and the City of Dublin enough for offering us the key to the City of Dublin. What a terrific honor it is for us to have this key as a constant reminder of the terrific friendships and relationships that were forged throughout this last year's President's Cup. It was such a tremendous event, successful on all fronts. And it wouldn't have been possible without terrific partnerships, like the one we had with Jack Nicklaus in Muirfield Village, with Dan Sullivan and the H&S Group, who helped us execute the event, and of course, with your terrific community. We had terrific programs through the City of Dublin, like the Four Fest, to the Economic Development Breakfast, to the 18 drives through Dublin, 18 golf moments, just to name a few. There were so many terrific avenues of promotion that the City of Dublin and the surrounding communities embraced to make the 2013 President's Cup very special and, in fact, best in class. In more ways than one, you set the bar for future President's Cups, starting with a record-breaking opening ceremony. First of all, it was the absolute first time we've opened to the public, and it was done with resounding success with record-breaking crowds. We had a worldwide television audience for the first time, breaking 800 million homes. 3.5 million visitors to PGAtour.com checking out the competition at Muirfield Village. Attendance was up more than 43% from 2011, in spite of the rain. One of the great things about the terrific golf fans of Ohio is they come out no matter what the conditions are. and of course, a record charitable contribution of more than $5 million, some of which benefiting local organizations like Nationwide Children's Hospital and the First Tee of Central Ohio. It's our sincere hope that you forever think about the PGA Tour and the President's Cup as fondly as we think about the city of Dublin and the terrific friendships that we have with you and everyone in your community. On behalf of the PGA Tour, the commissioner of the PGA Tour, the entire team associated with the President's Cup, please accept our heartfelt thank you for all you did to make the 2013 President's Cup the best one yet.
Thank you, and congratulations again, Dan and Nicholas, to putting on a terrific event. And let's just keep Mr. Nicholas out of town for a while. If we got 80 days, we have a lot of repairing to do right now. You know, it's interesting. I challenge anybody to find any video within Dublin that will show a drop of rain that occurred during the President's Cup. The highlights are bright and sunny, even though there were only 13 minutes of total sunshine during the entire President's Cup. So God bless you, Dan, for what you've done, and it certainly is terrific. You know, as an experience being on that first tee, getting to meet a president of the former President of the United States, George Bush, and introduce him was a terrific honor. And some of the stories and things that went on that first tee were incredible. On Sunday, I'll share a quick story with you. Adam Scott from Australia was on the first tee and is warming up, and we had our good friends from Australia that were there cheering on people, and great energy, and it was a lot of fun, and it was very quiet. The players were going out to play their singles matches, and one of the Aussies yelled out, "Raise your hand if you have won a major in the last 12 months, knowing full well that the only one that was on that tee then, as he was getting ready to play, I think, Tiger, and Adam Scott kind of sheepishly raised his hand, and it was really a nice gesture by the Aussies. Jack Nicklaus walked on the tee 5 minutes later, and somebody from the U.S. says, "Raise your hand if you've won 18 majors." And Jack sheepishly raised his hand as well. A few minutes later, Urban Meyer walked up and was catching the goings on, and somebody had come up with, "Raise your hand if you've won," and it was 18 in a row at the time, football games, and Urban Meyer raised his hand. So when you talk about champions in Dublin, that was a pretty good example of some of the really special things that we have. We're going to move on, because all this stuff costs money, right? I mean, you see all these pretty buildings. Come on up. Come on, Angel. Angel Muma is the city's finance director, and she's nervous, guys. We had a little rehearsal yesterday. She sent me like text messages all night that, yes, you did, that if I pick on her or embarrass her in any manner, she's going to get really upset. So the simple fact that she holds all the money for Dublin, all right? You're not responsible for the taxes, I understand. So you're blaming somebody else for that, all right? But seriously, how are we going to pay for all this stuff? And do we have a state of the city from a finance area? We're okay.
We absolutely do, and hopefully in the next couple of minutes as I go through the state of the finances, we will give everybody a comfort that we are financially secure and will continue to be so.
Talk to me about the idea of paying taxes, because we have obviously individuals, but we also have a corporate tax base as well.
We do. There is a great deal of confusion about taxes. The city is primarily funded through income taxes, as I'll discuss here momentarily. Since your first tax at your workplace municipality, Dublin is fortunate to have a strong, diversified tax base in our businesses. And those businesses help contribute to our amenities here, like parks. I was speaking about taxes.
Did you get the impression nobody wants to hear about taxes?
There's crickets out there. We are primarily funded through income taxes, and I will go through that here momentarily. Since income taxes are first generated in your workplace municipality, Dublin is fortunate to have a strong, diversified tax base in its businesses. And those businesses help contribute to the amenities that we can provide to folks, like parks infrastructure improvements and capital investment. And that's really why we focus so much on economic development here in Dublin.
Terrific. Well, with all that going on, you've got some numbers to share with us that are going to
do.
talk a little bit about our state of finances. Angel, it's all yours.
Thank you.
Anybody have any trouble with the person in charge of your taxes being named Angel? What's your Twitter handle?
I don't tweet.
You don't tweet?
No.
We're going to have to work on that. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. And for the record, I think Jeff stretches the truth a little bit.
Oh, please.
But I would like to thank you also for joining us here this evening. We appreciate your interest in the state of the city, and I'm proud to share with you the financial state of the city. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through an overview of our 2013 finances, as well as give you a preview of where we're headed in 2014, so that you can see why Dublin is home to fiscal strength. First, let's look at the city's revenue. As you can see from this chart, the city's total revenue in 2013 was $173.7 million, which represented a 3% increase over 2012. Excluding agency and trust fund revenue, along with refunds and reimbursements, our total revenue was $116.5 million, which was nearly a 4.5% increase over 2012. Clearly, our primary source of revenue is the income tax, which made up nearly 71% of our total for the year. Three other sources round out our top 90%, and those include charges for services, service payments generated within our tax increment financing districts, and intergovernmental revenues. Given the overall importance of the income tax to the city's revenue, we are pleased to report that in 2013, our income tax revenue increased 8.8% over 2012, resulting in revenue of $82.1 million. City of Dublin dedicates 25% of our income tax revenue to the Capital Improvement Tax Fund. In 2013, that resulted in $20.5 million going to a fund that provides for infrastructure improvements and maintenance of our existing assets. You'll hear more about many of those improvements throughout the course of the evening. Approximately 80% of our income tax revenue was generated through payroll withholdings from individuals working within the City of Dublin corporate limits. Dublin's continued economic vitality is a result of quality development, strategic planning, and the city's continued efforts to attract and retain high-quality commercial development. The city's economic vitality is also reflected in the credit rating assigned to the city at our last debt issuance. As part of a $9.8 million general obligation debt issuance that occurred in late 2013, the city once again received the AAA rating from both Moody's and Fitch Ratings, ensuring that the city received the lowest rate when going to the bond market. These are superior ratings that few can tout. Out of the 522 public entities, including school districts, counties, and cities rated by Moody's in Ohio, Dublin is one of 22 that carries the AAA rating. Nationally, out of 7,240 ratings of the same group, Dublin is one of 349 with a AAA rating, putting us in the top 5%. The funds from this bond issue were used to acquire land for the Bridge Street District and fund a portion of the construction of Emerald Parkway Phase 8. Of course, these numbers not only provide insight into the City of Dublin's financial strength, but also reflect on the quality of the 3,000 businesses that call Dublin home. The activity of our current residents and businesses reflect a confidence in the financial strength of the market here in Dublin. In 2013, the city issued 586 building permits, and that was also the second year in a row that nearly 600 permits were issued. These permits totaled $163.9 million in commercial investment in our community, which over the past 5 years is the highest in residential and commercial investment. That confidence is exemplified in projects underway throughout the city. Right outside our doors here, the vision for Bridge Street Corridor is coming to fruition, with progress being made on condominiums, retail, office space, and other roadway improvements. In the 270-33 interchange, federal, state, and local authorities have agreed to invest over $95 million in interchange improvements, of which the preliminary work is well underway and construction is expected to begin in early 2015. Including these projects, City Council has programmed over $201 million in funding as part of the 2014 through 2018 Capital Improvements Program. As you can see, over half of the projects are transportation related. Some of those projects include the completion of Emerald Parkway Phase 8, the realignment of Riverside Drive, the installation of a roundabout at Riverside Drive and 161, and intersection improvements at Dublin and Glick Roads. Also programmed are the completion of shared use paths on Dublin Road South and Glick Road, as well as the Muirfield Drive bike lane improvements. Nearly $50 million is programmed for park improvements throughout the city, including Dari Fields, Amberley Community Park, Emerald Fields, Kaufman Park, a new Riverside Park, and of course the infamous pedestrian bridge spanning the Scioto River. Equally important to new infrastructure is maintaining the existing assets that we have. Dublin City Council, the administration, and staff have devoted resources to ensure that it is maintained well into the future. In 2013, over $4.1 million was invested in the annual street maintenance program. $300,000 was invested in the annual sidewalk maintenance program, $100 million in stormwater improvements and repair, and nearly $450,000 on shared use path maintenance, just to name a few. Now let's take a look at what else was accomplished during the year. The city also invests in our businesses. In 2013, the city made payments totaling $3.6 million in economic development incentives, which in turn generated $20.5 million in income tax withholdings. The city is committed to continuing to work with companies in the future to retain and expand their business spaces, along with attracting new businesses. Clearly, we are very proud of what we accomplished in 2013, and we look forward to what we are going to accomplish in 2014, including the final phase of Emerald Parkway, as well as the beginning of the transformation of the river corridor. Thank you.
Angel, that wasn't so bad, was it? You did a terrific job. That's great. Heavenly, actually. Sorry, I had to. So, how many of you out there feel a reason to applaud how our city has handled the snow removal in this city during this mess, right? Who's ever here, Marcia, that represents that crew, make sure they understand that it's been a terrific job from a resident standpoint. So, Angel's talked about some pretty cool things. This Emerald Parkway thing, we see blasting and all that stuff going on. We see pictures of the Bridge Street District. What else might we see in 2014? You want to
We'll
step
let
up
you
and
know,
let it go?
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, the State of the City from Marcia Grigsby.
First of all, one of the things that's always very nice to be able to give the State of the City for the City of Dublin, because we get to show a lot of really neat things that have happened in projects. And it all starts with the individuals that were introduced at the beginning, our city council members that you see in the picture. So I'd first like to take the opportunity to just recognize their hard work and dedication to this city, the current council and past councils. And the result of what you see today and what's coming in the future is the result of the leadership and direction that City Council provides. And from the administration standpoint, I would just like to thank Council for your leadership, your direction, and your support for city staff. It's very much appreciated. And again, it's the reason Dublin is where it is today. First of all, like I said, it's very good to give the state of the city and the city of Dublin, because typically the state of the city is excellent, and that is the case again this year. One of the projects that I mentioned early on and that has been mentioned a few times is the I-270 US 33 interchange. And last year when we were at the State of the City, we were talking about, we had just received some $7 million in funding through MORPC. We were working on trying to figure out what phase would come first. And so the difference between last year and this year is nothing more than phenomenal. We have been able to secure the funding for a new phase 1, which is a $95 million phase instead of a $25 million phase. And once this phase is completed, it will actually result in the interchange being viable for the next 15 or so years, where previously the phase 1, as soon as it was finished, we were going to need to start looking at how to do phase 2. And that's the direct result of the partnership that we've had with ODOT and all of their employees and their efforts. And again, I don't know who from ODOT is here this evening, but to just thank Director Ray and all of his staff for the partnership and working with us on this project. Also, to thank MORPC and the MORPC membership, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. We secured $25 million in funding through MORPC, and this was something that MORPC typically does not do, and they're going to be providing funding over a 20-year period to pay back a state infrastructure bank loan from the Department of Transportation. And then also the City of Dublin's contributing over $17 million toward this project. So again, I think partnerships have gotten the City of Dublin where we are today, and projects like this, that's going to be what we continue to do to make ourselves successful in the future. So I'd just like to thank all of those parties that have been working with us over the last year to secure the funding. Angel mentioned Emerald Parkway Phase A. This is a project that we've been talking about for 20 years. We actually started Phase 1 of Emerald Parkway back in 1996. And it was the piece of roadway from Kaufman Road to just past the Verizon buildings to provide access to those buildings. So in less than a 20-year period, we've been able to build a $40 million boulevarded roadway that connects from Sawmill Road to Tuttle Crossing Boulevard, almost a 5-mile stretch of roadway. And not only is it good for the traveling public, but also it's opened up hundreds of acres of prime commercial land. And as Angel touched on, that's key to our success because of the implications and the benefits of the income tax that we receive from those businesses. So the project, the $60 million or over $60 million project, has been funded about 60% through tax increment financing and the remainder through income tax, as well as we did have a few roadway grants from the Department of Transportation. And we're talking about and have discussed that because of the importance of this roadway, when the final phase is completed, we're likely to have a grand opening event of Emerald Parkway. And one of the things I can't wait to do is to drive from Sawmill Road to Tuttle Crossing Boulevard on Emerald Parkway. And at the end of this year, you should be able to do that. So we're really looking forward to the completion of that roadway. Again, partnerships and transportation is a key theme that we hear here in Dublin. And we have a couple other projects, intersection improvements that we're working on. The first one that you see on the left is Dublin-Glick intersection, and on the right is Sawmill-Hard intersection. And both of these intersections are projects that we've talked about for quite some time because of the improvements that are needed. And again, because of the partnerships that we've had, we're going to be able to either initiate and/or complete or initiate those projects this year. The first one, Dublin-Glick, this is one where it's a really tough intersection because it's in multiple jurisdictions. So we've had to work with ODOT, the Village of Shawnee Hills, Delaware County, and then the City of Dublin. And we have worked on this partnership, and the project is about $1.5 million, and approximately 50% of that will be funded by the City of Dublin, and Delaware County and the Village of Shawnee Hills are contributing dollars, and then Shawnee Hills, they submitted a grant application and a loan application through the Ohio Public Works Commission. And I was talking to Mayor Monahan earlier this evening. He's here somewhere. And he told me that we've received confirmation that both the grant and the loan was approved. So the next step is to get our right-of-way acquired. We've had discussions with some initial discussions with the property owners, so we'll be moving forward with that. So again, this is one of those long time discussed projects that hopefully in the next year or so we'll be able to see the completion of that project. Sawmill Road is similar. Also working in conjunction with the City of Columbus and ODOT, that intersection will be improved. We're trying to coordinate our intersection improvement project with Columbus's widening of Hard Road. And as a result of having conversations with each other, we're able to coordinate that with ODOT's what they call ramp clear project. So it will result in an added lane north of I-270 from Billingsley Road up to Hard Road, which will then connect with the projects that both Dublin and Columbus are doing. So this is one of those areas that we have major traffic congestion that these projects will greatly improve those circumstances. Bike paths. One of the things that Dublin is known for is bike paths and our connections that we've worked on over the years. We currently have over 100 miles of bike paths in the city. And our residents, it's amazing, you go out anymore in the evenings and you see people walking and riding on the bike paths. And the one thing that I've noticed in the last couple of years more and more is that during the day, the employees of the businesses are out utilizing the bike paths, where you didn't used to see that a lot. So I think a lot of the health initiatives and discussions that we're having are causing people to get out and utilize the bike paths during the day. A couple key projects that we completed last year and that we're continuing to work on this year. We started the construction of the Brand Road bike path from Dublin Road to Muirfield Drive. Once that is completed, we'll start construction again this year as soon as the weather breaks, and once that's completed, there'll be a connection from Dublin Road to Highland Croy along Brand Road. So that's a key connection to be made within the next few months. Also, Dublin Road South, we've completed 2 sections of that pathway from Tuttle Road up to Rings Road. This year we're working on the acquisitions for the next phase, which is Rings Road up to the Historic District. So we're making progress, and our hope is that we'll be in a position to initiate construction either late this year or more likely next year. But those are key projects. Another project that we've had conversations about, and this year we were able to secure easements from Dublin City School District, is the connection that runs along the western boundary of Scioto High School. And we recently received the dedication of the easement from the Dublin City School Board, and we appreciate their efforts and the efforts of their administration to allow us to get that easement at no cost. And this year we'll be constructing that bike path connection, which will not only benefit our residents, but also the cross-country teams at the high school. So thanks to the Board of Education for their efforts. As Angel mentioned, we live off of the income tax revenues, so economic development has always been a key priority for the city. Income taxes provide both our funding for operations and our capital improvements. It's been mentioned a couple times that we currently are home to over 3,000 businesses and 70,000 jobs in the city. So a city that has 43 residents, we have 70,000 people that come here every day to work. So there's a lot of cars and people moving through town, and that's why we focus so much on transportation infrastructure, because of the payback that we get in income tax revenues. And one of the key economic development agreements that occurred last year in early 2013 was Chase and JP Morgan Chase. They have a huge presence in Central Ohio, and last year we entered into an agreement with them, and they're locating and have located 500 jobs within the city of Dublin. So that's a pretty big gain when you're looking at jobs in your city. And then, of course, one of the unique economic development projects or companies that had construction is what you see in the slide, is Wendy's. They opened their flagship restaurant almost across the street from where we are this evening. Ohio University, the city's developed a very good partnership with Ohio University. In 2012, they selected the city of Dublin as the site for their the extension of their Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine. And they currently, last year, started construction on or renovation of the 2 buildings for the land that they purchased. And the first class will be opening this fall out at the 161 Post Road interchange. There's approximately 90 acres that they have access to develop. They're currently working on a master plan in order to bring additional development to that site. And just recently, they've had approval from our Planning and Zoning Commission on an additional building to be constructed, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 87,000 square feet. And one of the key components that will be located in there is a physician's assistance program. And I think probably a lot of you have seen today where there was an article in Business First where Columbus State is looking at and working with OU on the possibility of locating some of their campus on one of those floors in the new building. So having OU come to town and start to be one of the areas that we focused on years ago was it's important to bring a college into your community. So we've already seen the success of having OU in the community, and I think we're only going to be seeing a lot more happening in that area. One of the programs or marketing campaigns that we've started recently is called Why Dublin campaign. And City Council every year meets to establish goals, and 2 of their goals that they currently have relate to engaging our businesses and the business leaders in our economic development, and also developing our brand recognition through stakeholders and stakeholders telling the story for us. And so that's what this campaign is about. It's an economic development campaign where we're having our companies tell their story, which in turn tells our story. And some of the things that we've learned, there's currently, I think, 20 companies that have videos that are available for view, anywhere from the Fortune 19 company of a Cardinal Health to Wendy's to some of the smaller companies and a new company, Persistent Systems. And some of the common themes that are coming out of the interviews or the videos are they talk about Dublin, they talk about access to top talent, and they can get good workforce here. And that the fact that the City of Dublin is a true partner in business and working with the businesses. They reference the great schools that we have. They want to be in a location where there are good schools for their employees. If they want to move in the area, their kids will have good schools to go to. World-class amenities, our parks, our bike paths, the golf events, the city's events. So there's many, many things to do in the City of Dublin, and they recognize the importance of that to their employees. And then finally, they reference a safe community. And I think one of the primary purposes of the City of Dublin and most governments is to provide safety to the residents. And I think that has been one of our hallmarks for many, many years. And some of the statistics that we've learned recently is that our crime has reduced substantially over the last 5 years. Thefts are down approximately 25%, and burglaries are down over 30%. So it's pretty amazing to think about the reductions in crime that we've seen over the past 5 years. Also recently, we have been recognized for one of the top 100 safest cities in the United States by Neighborhood Scout, one of the 50 safest cities in Ohio by Safewise, and Movado Real Estate recently ranked Dublin as the 4th safest suburb in America. So it's a pretty amazing fact and stats to hear all of the recognition for our police department. So I'd like to thank the chief of police sitting there and all of the officers. Another really neat program that we started a couple years ago in the police department is the Citizens Police Academy. We just graduated the 2nd class recently. There were 27 members, and these are residents and community members that dedicate something like 3 or 4 hours for 12 Thursdays, and they're pretty intense, and they learn a lot about how the police department operates so they can help us and also tell our story when they're out talking to their friends and neighbors. We've had a couple council members that also participated, and I think it's a real learning experience, and you have a new appreciation for what police officers have to do in protecting all of us. One of the things you've probably seen this evening is we have CSO individuals running around, and these are our community service officers, and that's as a result of having our Citizens Police Academy. The first class that graduated, we have 10 of those individuals that are currently community service officers, and it's amazing the amount of work and help that they provide for us. And if you go to any event in the city of Dublin, you're going to see the CSOs in their black shirts and their tan pants. And so the additional service that they've provided to the city has been an amazing help to us, and we really appreciate their dedication to the city. Something else that we've focused on, we've talked about partnerships, but also we've always looked at shared services and how we can work together to the benefit of providing better services and also at a reduced cost. And this year, or actually we worked on it through last year, but we ended up having a contract or entering into a contract with Norwich Township Fire and the City of Hilliard for their police services to do their dispatching. We've done the dispatching for Washington Township for many years. But to me, not only does this show that we're willing to work out partnerships, but the fact that you have two entities who their primary focus also is providing safety services, that they have enough faith and confidence in our police department and specifically our communications center division to allow us to do the dispatching for them. So again, it's one of those where if anybody has never seen a communications center operate, it's amazing the amount of work and how difficult that job is. So this is another good sign, an indication of the level of our police protection and the service that we provide. We've talked about an informed and engaged community, and we have that in spades. It's amazing the amount of people that volunteer and participate in city events. And I think a good indication of that is the number of people that are here this evening. It's amazing to think that for an event like this, you can fill this room of over 300 people to come and learn about the city and to be able to have the chance to have conversations about what's going on in the city. One of the individuals that led us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, Oz Keplin, he was involved in a program that Wreaths Across America, got involved, he did it all on his own, and it resulted in 286 Boy Scouts placing wreaths at the graves of our veterans. So just for a resident to take that initiative, I think is pretty amazing that we have those type of people in our community. Also, one of the things that we did last year was the dedication of the KIA Memorial, and it was dedicated in the Dublin Cemetery. And this is to honor those who were killed in action that served our country. So we're able to recognize their service to our country and the freedoms that they have provided for us. Our volunteer program is something that we talk about on a regular basis, how fortunate we are to have the number of volunteers that we have in this city. One of the things to highlight this year is in 2013 is the Presidential Service Award for the volunteer service for the bicycle ambassadors. We have over 40 volunteers who help us monitor our bike pass system. And for 2014, they're looking at exploring bike rental programs and also bike tours within the city of Dublin. So we're very fortunate to have these types of individuals in our community. Social media, we've talked a lot about this tonight. Tweeting and not tweeting and what we do. We have a pretty big focus these days on social media. It's one way to reach residents quickly. We have over 160,000 monthly visits to our website, and over half of them come through mobile devices. So probably sitting in here this evening, somebody's on their phone sending something out to Facebook, or they're checking our Facebook to see what's going on. And we joked earlier today, and it was kind of funny, there was a couple jokes already made about taking pictures and tweeting, and I said, maybe what I should do, I should stand up here and take a picture so we can tweet out the number of people that are here tonight, but we decided not to do that. The next big initiative for the City of Dublin is the Bridge Street District. Last year at the State of the City, we discussed Council's decision to focus on the Scioto River corridor, and we unveiled some preliminary vision concepts at that point in time. After that, in June, we entered into preliminary engineering for 4 catalytic projects that have been touched on before. They are the realignment of Riverside Drive, the roundabout at Riverside Drive and Bridge Street, or 161, the pedestrian bridge, and the parks along the Scioto River. After that, we had City Council adopted the update to the community plan, and as part of that, the Bridge Street District was incorporated into the community plan, and the concepts of the plan incorporated into our community plan. Also, we've tried to focus on making sure we have a lot of engagement with regard to this initiative, since it's such a significant change that's going to happen in the core of our city. And we had a community forum on October 22nd at OCLC where over 300 people attended to get information on the Bridge Street District. Also, this past year, we've acquired significant amount of parkland and right-of-way for the projects that have been mentioned. And this slide is a depiction of the acquisitions that we've had over the past year. And for the dark green parcels that you see highlighted, those are properties that the city's owned for years, and the light green are those that we recently acquired, with the majority of those acquired in 2013. And City Council's had a long-standing goal of acquiring parkland along the river, and so not only does this meet one of those goals, but it's also key to the development and the implementation of the Bridge Street District. This slide shows the 4 main projects and where they're located. And as I said, we started the preliminary engineering last year in June so that we would be able to develop programming level estimates for our capital improvements program. And in last June, July timeframe, we put together our CIP, and City Council adopted the CIP in September. And we have programmed for these projects final design in 2014, and then construction funding is programmed for 2015. And this is something that we'll touch a little bit later on through the event here tonight. As far as the Bridge Street District, City Council had their goal-setting retreat last week and confirmed the concepts and the commitments that they've identified previously as it relates to the Bridge Street District. Talking about the grid, the transportation system, the concept of higher level densities with regard to residential development, mixed uses, and also making sure we have a place where the young workforce wants to live, and also where the empty nesters have a place to live. And again, the reason that we focused on the Bridge Street District, the core of that decision was related back to economic development and the need to make sure that we remain competitive with regard to our economic development initiatives as well as the community itself. So at this point in time, I'd like to ask Terry Fogler, who is our Director of Strategic Initiatives, to come up to the stage, and we'll have some more discussion on Bridge Street and some of the highlights that are coming forward.
You know, in the fall of this year, I learned that Marcia will be celebrating 25 years of continuous service with the City of Dublin. How cool is that? Nice job.
That just means I'm getting old.
No, you started when you were 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Terry, I understand like you're the Bridge Street guy. I mean, and everybody needs a guy.
That's right.
And so you're the go-to. Everybody's watching. What's going on?
Oh my God, they are.
Tell us.
Pay attention. I think well, the first thing to say about the Bridge Street project is that the levels of development interest that have been emerging here in recent months has been extraordinary. But the one thing we hear most repeatedly is the level of, I think, leadership on the part of City Council with regard to the due diligence, the background studies that have been done. Marcia mentioned all of the planning studies and the transportation studies and fiscal impact studies. It has prepared the plate so well for development at this point that virtually every major development site in the Bridge Street District now has significant developer interest planning and moving forward on it. Some of the projects that were shared with our Planning Commission recently in October, that input has been received, and you're going to see a lot of next generation ideas emerge on the Crawford Hoying concept along the eastern side of the river. So I think there's tremendous private projects that are going to begin to move forward in the planning and design process this year. Was announced, I think it was in the paper just in the last couple days, that the Columbus Library has announced it's selected the design firm, NBBJ, for the new library. We're very hopeful that that'll be a really important civic structure piece of the Bridge Street corridor. I think the green space that Marcia outlined, the importance of the parks along the river and the quality that that's going to add not just to to being a catalyst for the appropriate kinds of development that we're seeking, but the asset that that's going to be to the broader community are really going to continue to have the effect that we hope they had. And I think that the other public projects, the road relocations, the roundabouts, the parks, the pedestrian bridge are certainly generating the kinds of interest we thought they would.
Any idea how many more roundabouts we're going to need until the people from Upper Arlington can figure out how to drive up here?
I think this one is the mother of all roundabouts, as it was referred to by one of our designers, but we're excited.
Yeah, they are terrific. Yep. And just a little jab at the people from 43221. So, so you have some other news to update us on?
Well, probably one of the other key aspects that we've talked about for quite some time is the importance of the agreement or our partnership with the Dublin City School District on entering into a cooperative agreement with regard to the implementation of Bridge Street. We've had discussions over the past months, and we believe that within the near future we'll be able to have legislation before both the Board of Education and City Council that will allow us to begin the implementation of the Bridge Street District.
Terrific. That is great news, and I think everybody's looking forward to it. We've seen the impact of an arena district downtown in Columbus and how that has reinvigorated that whole downtown community, and I think we can certainly see some transformation here going on in our own community. So we've seen a lot of stuff. We've seen pictures out there. We've seen videos. It all looks pretty good. If people have questions during this whole construction phase, where do they go find answers?
I mean, one of the things City Council has asked us to really focus on is develop a very robust campaign to get information out. So among the things that will exist now, if you go to our website and go to the Bridge Street, you will see a very comprehensive, ongoing, continually updated list of questions and answers that we are getting about Bridge Street issues. They've also asked that we create a series of videos, for example, one that's going to be prepared to show how that roundabout actually works so people can visualize it. And there's a whole range of those kind of videos that we're preparing to help demonstrate and explain traffic and other issues and how those are dealt with in Bridge Street. So I think a lot of that information is available, but probably one of the core questions and one of the ones that we get asked with some frequency is just the why around Bridge Street. And in reality, as Marcia mentioned before, it's really about the the economic development, to keeping this community as competitive for the next 10, 20, 30 years as we have been for the last 10, 20, 30 years. And there's been some outreach to some of the regional folks engaged in economic development, some of our corporate leaders, and we'd like to share with you kind of their perspective on that issue as well with a video.
Marcia, construction around this project going to be a challenge?
Anytime you have construction, you have challenges. This year we had the construction of the roundabout at Brand and Kaufman, and that created challenges for a couple months period of time. But anybody driving through that intersection today, it's amazed, and there have even been comments about where did all the cars go. It's just a matter of how well the traffic flows. So I think one of the things that's important to point out with regard to this intersection is this was an intersection that we were studying prior to Bridge Street even being discussed, and it's an intersection that needed improvement before Bridge Street. So whether Bridge Street happened or not, this intersection would need to be improved. So as Terry mentioned, we're working to develop a simulation to show how the intersection will work in the future as it compared to how it works today. So we recognize that there will be impacts and there's inconveniences and it's difficult, but we're going to do the best that we can to provide information to the residents. We're working on a communications plan so that they'll have good information as to what's going on. We're also looking at ways that we can mitigate impacts. Example of Emerald Parkway, part of our reasoning for making sure that project got awarded by the end of last year is so that it would be completed by the end of this year. We're also looking at some other connectors that we can make in order to help mitigate those projects or the inconveniences that will be the result of this project. So terrific. We appreciate some of the concerns with regard to the maintenance of traffic, and as we go through final design, we'll continue to develop those plans.
I think one thing you'll recognize with Dublin, we are coachable. So tell us how to do it. We'll get through that. You mentioned a video. We've got a video about Bridge Street.
Yeah, I think just getting back to the core of the rationale for the why of this is partly an example of the kind of videos we're talking about to explain the economic development rationale. Rather than us as staff and city officials, we think it's best for the folks who are actually engaged at the front lines in economic development and our corporate leaders to speak of their views of the value of Bridge Street's implementation.
Terrific. Let's watch the video.
Hi, I'm Vice Mayor Rick Gerber. Dublin City Council has made the Bridge Street Vision Plan a priority goal. We believe that the successful implementation of this vision will help ensure Dublin's long-term economic competitiveness. So now let's hear from some of our corporate and economic development leaders and what they say about the Bridge Street Vision Plan.
The change that's coming to Central Ohio in demographics and consumer preferences have real implications for communities like Dublin. How do you get ahead of those shifts? How do you plan for growth? How do you plan to stay competitive? How do you plan to have an environment in your community that helps you recruit businesses, that helps you recruit talents, and quite frankly, keep residents as they're aging, keep them invested in your community?
This corridor is a great example of a community that is looking into the future and developing something right when it's needed in our region.
We spent a lot of time here as a community building wonderful parks and bike paths and fabulous libraries and infrastructure. And now we just have this wonderful opportunity to, if you will, complete that circle and to create a livable, walkable district where employees, really of all ages, can live where they work and work where they live.
You know, it's kind of interesting, whenever we interview someone, then make a hire, one of the first questions that they ask us is, where can I live? Ideally, they would like to live in a location where they could walk to work. And we tell them about what's going on with Bridge Street, and it's very exciting.
As we bring new employees or we're trying to retain employees, it is important that they live in a place, they have all the amenities that work for them as individuals, might work for their families. They want the right prices, they want places they can walk, they can go to retail, they can go to restaurants.
I actually moved from Chicago, and everything was walkable in Chicago, so that's one of the things that I thought I would really miss moving to Ohio. And what's interesting is I have the ability to grab lunch here and there, but it would be so much nicer if we had a grocery store and I could live close by where I wouldn't have to drive. I mean, I had to get a car because I was moving to Ohio. I haven't owned a car in 3 years, so it would be awesome to be able to quickly access everything I would need and be able to walk.
I'm currently looking to move. I found a place that's closer to Dublin, but if I had that opportunity currently now with housing, apartments, condos, townhomes, what that may be in downtown Dublin, that would have been my first choice.
If they're living in Grandview, living downtown today, and they like that look and feel, that's going to give them an option to move to Dublin, have a very, very short commute to work. We feel that the Bridge Street Initiative is only going to diversify and make sure that that talent pool is even wider, attract all types of people to Dublin.
Clearly, when you're bringing in new staff or staff right out of college, and because we are a knowledge organization, what we do is dependent on the talent that we can attract, that you really want to have options for folks when they come to live. That may not be buying a home. That more and more is, I want to live in a community where I can rent, where I can have a condo, where I can, if I decide I want to stay, upgrade or change, and not have to relocate to make that happen. I have seen this community grow and flex and become really the type of community that I think my children even might want to come back to when they're done.
Dublin really is a national leader in reshaping suburban America, and it really can't go back to what it was. It needs to diversify its housing stock. It needs to provide more walking opportunities for the workers and for the young families. It needs to diversify its overall land use base so that the companies that move in don't have to have workers driving in from out of town, and when the workers do live in Dublin, they have a pleasant environment to live and raise their families in.
I think the return on investment is going to be seen very quickly, and so I applaud the forward-leaning leadership of the Dublin City Council and the civic leaders in the Dublin area for working together to get this kind of project done.
Obviously, what we've seen, my family, in the years that we've lived here, is some great, planning and execution in the city. And I think this next step requires that same kind of leadership and courage to put that in place, right? If you build it, will they come? Yes.
And at this time, we'd like to thank Wendy's once again for allowing us to use their facility. The picture that we are giving to the Muirfield Village Golf Club, we are also going to be presenting to the Wendy's Company in recognition of them allowing us to use their facility. And if somebody could get the next slide. One of the marketing campaigns that the City of Dublin has started is Dublin, where champions reside. And I think when you're in Wendy's corporate headquarters, you get a sense or a feeling of Dave Thomas's legacy. And now his daughter, Wendy, is carrying on that legacy and the leadership behind this company. And we're very pleased and happy that they have agreed to partner with us on our marketing promotion where champions reside, and would like to thank Wendy Thomas and the Wendy's Company for partnering with the City of Dublin on our campaign. And with that, we're concluded.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good stuff. I can tell you when this rolled out initially, Jack and Barbara Nicholas were the first in that ad campaign, and really getting things started and so momentum moving in that direction. And now Wendy from the Thomas family, which is absolutely terrific. So, well, Marcia, we started out tonight talking about You Win with People, and it's clear that we have plenty of infrastructure in this city, plenty more infrastructure to come. But I know what you're really proud of mostly is the talent and the people that you have here. And the showing of everybody in the community here tonight is obviously evidence that they are appreciative of the great work that City Council is doing and the leadership in our community. So let's have one more round of applause for all of that leadership. So we're going to wrap up and know that there are going to be folks out milling around answering whatever questions you might have. And I want the truth here from everybody. And I don't need to swear you in to get it really truthful, but there was a rumor going around early. It was on Twitter. You got to get on Twitter, by the way, Angel, to get this. That there's a possibility there might be Frosties tonight when we break. How many of you, raise your hand, came with the understanding, and it probably got you here, that there would be? I thought so. So at least we have some honesty in here. Thrilled to have everybody here. It's a real treat for me to be able to sit here in a community that we have been a part of since 1980 and look forward to as we continue on. God bless everybody. Have safe travel home, and go Dublin. And remember, Dublin is home.